Sensory processing issues are very, very common in our children. It makes sense when you think about it developmentally. When a parent holds their newborn child, they're touching them, they're cradling. That baby feels the warmth of that parent's hand, the warmth of the parent's body. When I hold my baby against my chest, they feel my heart pounding and thumping gently. When I speak, they feel the vibrations. Matter of fact, I'll often ask parents who are talking to me, just put your hand on your chest and keep talking to me and feel that vibration. Our babies, as they're held and cradled, they feel our warmth. They might taste our milk, the mother's milk. They hear our voice. They see our face. The sensory regions of the brain come alive in that environment. There is a lot of research from 50 years and longer of research with deprivation that shows if children and even any living creature, but if we're not picked up and held, touched, cradled, and nurtured, the brain simply doesn't mature in appropriate regions. There's not synaptic connections. One of the real travesties about that we know as well is if there's a change in the sensory processing, we've got changes in the brain development, also the brain chemistry. So actually children who don't process the senses are now going to be much higher risk to be reactive to senses. So think about, there's 5 external senses. We all think about smell and sight and sound and so forth. But think about the internal senses. So the first internal sense is, it's called vestibular, which is just a big word that means I know where I am in space. When I pick my baby up, the vestibular fluid in the inner ear moves so that baby knows when I'm being picked up, when they're being picked up, that they're here with me. They were here, now they're here with me. A lot of our kids, if they're swinging or spinning or doing an activity, they don't know where they are in space, and they're thumping into things, they're bumping into things, they're clumsy, they're breaking things. They're not being malicious. But this sense didn't mature. Then for a lot of our children, there's another sense, it's called proprioception. It's just how tightly my muscles register deep touch. Now, for me as a mother, when my child cries, I hold them tighter. If they cry harder, I rock and I hold them tighter. Well, that rocking is the vestibular feedback that gives them calming, and the deep muscle calming when I hold them tighter. Now, though, a child is older, I come to maybe kiss them and I give them a little feathery kiss and they yelp, or they brush off my kiss, because they don't know how to interpret the sense of that muscle. I might come to my child as well and give them a hug, and they might yelp. But when they give me a hug, they might crush my bones. Are they being bad? No. They're not processing that sense. They don't have the brain development to understand that sense. And the third internal sense is tactile. So most of your sense, your greatest sense organ in your body is touch, is your skin. The first sense that's available, that's online in utero for every living creature that we know of, is touch. So touch is hugely important. But think about a child who's not touched and cradled carefully. That child is going to be the child who'll have trouble when somebody touches them knowing if they were hit or touched. That's again the child who you give a feathery kiss to, and they don't know how to interpret that, and so they don't want your kiss, they rub it off. The senses, understanding the senses is dramatically important, and we recommend that parents understand it. It is my earnest belief you cannot serve in your home, in your school, in your church, in your nursery, in any environment. You cannot serve an at-risk child unless you understand the sensory processing. There are many fine resources. There's Raising a Sensory Smart Child. Lucy Miller has written several good books. I very often refer to Carol Cranowitz books, beginning with The Out of Sync Child and then going to The Out of Sync Child Has Fun. Any of these will give you a primer. In Carol's book, she taught us to take a 1-week diary and to take all the bad behaviors all week, and then to look for ways that you can identify if that was a behavior that was driven by sensory overload. What happens for our families is that they very, very quickly realize that much of the behavior is being driven by these sensory deficits in our children. So in Carol's book, The Out of Sync Child, there's a screening instrument for elementary and preschool children, where you can just go through and see what is going on. Then you can do the journal for the cost of about $15 or $16. You can get deeply into the waters. It's only going to be beginning to get into the waters, but if you have a child who's come from hard places, prenatally or postnatally, you must understand sensory processing and how it is affecting your child.